Well, that epic feud between Fox News host Megyn Kelly and Donald Trump, is it over? Well, the two came face to face once again this week, but words, they never tell the whole story. As our next guest knows, body language can say a lot more than our words. Now, TONYA REIMAN, she's the author of The Power of Body Language, The Yes Factor, and The Body Language of Dating. She joins us live via Skype. Welcome, TONYA. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, the thing I want to start off with, it's an exchange about whether or not Trump feels that the Heidi Cruz retweet was a mistake. Let's take a listen.
Okay.
Have you made any mistakes in this campaign? You had said publicly you thought the retweet about Heidi Cruz was a mistake. Let me just...
Well, I said I could have done without it, to be exact. I mean, I could have done without it.
You said a mistake. Are you walking that back?
No, I'm not walking it back, but I actually didn't say it that way. I said I could have done without it. I mean,
but it was a mistake, wasn't it? I mean, that you shouldn't have done that,
I wish
right?
I didn't do it. Although, you know, I guess you could say she's fair game because she's very much involved with the campaign.
So, TONYA, when I saw that, I mean, I thought his words spoke volumes, the fact that he wouldn't call it a mistake. What can we take from that in terms of his body language?
You know, there's something you have to realize with anyone's body language. The first thing that's most important is their baseline body language. So we know when Trump speaks, typically if you watch him, he looks off to his left. And we know what he's doing at that point is kind of remembering. So when you look off to your left, or, you know, depending upon who you are, you might look off to your right. But Donald looks off to his left when he's remembering things. So as you're watching him and he's being asked questions, he's looking off to his left. When he's asked about the Heidi Cruz tweet, he looks off to his left because he's remembering. But then if you notice, he suddenly looks off to his right and then back. And there's a twofold question there. Is he doing that because he doesn't remember saying it was a mistake, which Maureen Dowd in the New York Times clearly stated it was, Donald Trump admitted it was a mistake? Or is he just being non-committal and not wanting to fulfill those memories? Either which way, at that point, you saw him become uncomfortable. And when I say uncomfortable, you see certain signals. He starts to sway back and forth like this. So when you do this, it's very childlike. And what you're trying to do is get rid of all the excess energy that you might be carrying around. So the question becomes, was he trying to remember if he actually said that? Or was he trying to get out of a potential negative? Donald tends to put everything in a positive frame for himself, and that's wonderful. That's what people should do. Always make themselves look the best they can look, right? But he does it no matter what. He can spin any story in any situation so that he always comes out as the positive person, and that's what I saw in this clip.
Now, I'm no body language expert, obviously, but when you're talking about this looking to the left, when I watch this next clip that we'll listen to when Megyn asks him about what he said about Carly Fiorina's face, I'm pretty sure, I think he looked to the left. So let's listen to it, and then tell me what you
make.
make.
That would be his normal, just so you know, that's his normal.
That's his normal. So, okay, well, let's watch it, and then I'd love to hear your thoughts.
All right, good.
The comment about John McCain, you prefer people who weren't captured. The comment about Carly Fiorina's face. But do you regret any of those comments?
Yeah, I guess so, but you have to go forward. You make a mistake, you go forward, and you know, you can correct a mistake, but to look back and say, gee whiz, I wish I didn't do this or that, I don't think that's good. I don't even think, in a certain way, I don't even think that's healthy.
So you're saying that's just the normal look to the left? That wasn't anything to read into it?
Right. Well, because when he looks to his left, he's actually remembering what he did and what he said. And that's what we tend to do. We have one specific way that we remember things, and then another specific way that we either are intentionally being deceptive or we're filling in the blanks. So I might say to you, what'd you have for dinner last night? You're not going to lie to me, but you might go in between because you're trying to remember. You try to fill in the blanks. So you have to look for other cues to make sure that there's deception or is there anxiety. In this clip, though, we saw two interesting things. The first thing is we saw Donald do what's known as an eyelash flutter, which is when he does this, okay? So that indicates increased mental arousal. It means he's thinking about it. In addition, when we shut our eyes down for longer than, like, you know, a tenth of a second, it also indicates we're trying to block out other things because we're feeling pressure about them. If you watched him when he said this, in addition to that, did you see his mouth, this little mentalis muscle? Everything got tight, and you noticed this like grimace as he was talking.
So he was uncomfortable.
So obviously this hit a chord with him, and it was something that bothered him. It was that in addition to the comment about John McCain, in which, as you're watching him, not only does he do that, but he also lifts his shoulders up. And when you lift your shoulders up with like this, what you're saying basically is, I don't know. So he was congruent in that part. And that's what makes him such a great spokesperson, because he's honest most of the time with his nonverbal. So he went, I don't know. And in doing so, he lifted his shoulders, which is a match You know, when we do this, it says, I don't know. His body language reflected it, and his words reflected the same thing.
Honest with his nonverbals. I think that's an interesting takeaway that some people, may or may not be surprised to hear. And this last exchange that we have, I loved it because, when none of us can really understand the inside world of what Donald Trump lives every day. And this took us into this tweeting process that's made him even more of a celebrity than he is. Let's listen to it.
Usually after 7 or 8 o'clock, I'll do it myself. But during the day, if I'm in the office, I have a number of people that I'll just call out a tweet to. It's always my writing.
You call out exclamation point.
I'd say exclamation point.
Bad.
You know me well. No, I'll say exclamation point.
I'm familiar.
So they'll type it out for me real fast, bring it in. I'll be in a meeting, boom, put an exclamation point here, and I'll send it in. So I don't do the physical. Now, after like 7 or 8 o'clock, if I'm home, I'll do it myself.
Love that smile. There's this joy almost in that exchange that to me says he loves tweeting and doing that. What do you take away from it?
I want you to think about two things. Okay, so the first thing is, yes, he does love this. He is very good in the public eye, so he knows he can get away with a lot of things. The interesting thing about that is he's talking, this is, again, we go with his baseline. He's very big, he makes these big gestures. He's very powerful, usually loud, if you noticed in this interview, very soft-spoken. But one thing we don't see Donald do often is this. We don't see him fold his arms over his chest, and that's a barrier. So when you see somebody doing this, what they're doing really is essentially closing you off from them. So this, my first interpretation was, he was thinking specifically about that Megyn Kelly retweet. He's standing right in front of her, or sitting right in front of her. So it builds discomfort. So in order to make himself feel better, he does this because it gives him a little extra space between him and Megyn Kelly. That was the takeaway from there. In addition, if you watched a few minutes later, he talks about the tweet. Oh, did I say that? Did I say that in the retweet? And then again, you see him rocking back and forth and swaying, childlike, nervous, but in addition, trying to be very coy and be friendly, likable. And that's what makes Donald Trump who he is. He's likable.
So as nice as people say that interview was, it sounds like she did make him uncomfortable. Tonya, Thank you so much for being with us today. It was fascinating.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Now, as